Joy here with Breathe Your Passion on Adorama TV. We are in Washington, D.C. with Moshe Zusman. Say hi. And this is his studio, and along with Miguel Quiles.
How's it going?
And we are doing a headshot experts panel for you today because I have chosen two amazing photographers, both do headshots, but do them completely differently. So Miguel, why don't we start with you? Tell me what you do and what kind of equipment you shoot with.
So I'm primarily a headshot and portrait photographer. Most of my work is in the studio, and part of the reason is that there's never an excuse about the weather. It's never that, oh, it's raining or it's snowing or whatever. You can always make it to a studio headshot session. And I shoot Sony. So my primary camera is my Sony A7RII, and my lighting is Photix lighting. So I use the Indra 500, the Indra 360 are my two primary lights.
All right, and Moshe?
I use Canon primarily because the red stripe is just so sexy. And
always the reason to pick your photography gear, by the way.
Yep. And Profoto, primarily D1 in the studio, B1, B2 on location.
Perfect. So complete opposites. I might as well just open the floor and we can start the dueling. Yeah. Why is Profoto your choice over anything else?
Consistency and quality of light is primarily the reason. Profoto has very low variance in color between full power and minimal power in different wattages.
Which is really important in a studio when you're trying to get a consistent look out of every single
picture. Especially when you use more than one light and again different variant power settings. Also, in the last 5.5 years that I've had Profoto, I have only had to switch one modeling light in 8 D1 heads, so they don't break even if you try really hard, and trust me, I've tried.
Awesome. Why do you choose what you've chosen?
I think for me, it's just a matter of that it just works for me.
Okay.
You know, there's a lot of amazing things about shooting with a Sony camera system, but personally for me, it just works. You know, it basically allows me to not think about the technology. The technology doesn't get in my way. I'm not sitting here trying to think, well, how do I set this up and how do I do this and that? It allows me to, my gear, my lighting and camera allows me to really just focus on the person that I'm photographing, and the gear and the settings and all that stuff just kind of stays out of the way like it should.
And that's really important because regardless of what kind of gear you have to be able to master it because it has to be second nature, especially if you're doing weddings like I'm doing. Everything's done so quickly, you have to be able to manipulate your equipment on the spot. So let's learn a little bit about what you guys do when you have a client that walks through the door. You know, do you have a go-to lighting setup or go-to system? Tell me, I guess just walk me through a process. What do you do when your client walks in the door, Moshe?
When a client walks through the door, first thing I do is I ask them if they want to have something to drink. I offer alcohol.
Yes, please.
But I really just greet them and have a conversation with them, try to find out why they're here, what they need the photo for, what part of my photography inspired them, and really what is the designation of the photo that helps me determine how I'm going to photograph them and how to approach setting my lighting, my backgrounds, and so on.
Perfect. Miguel?
My process is very much the same. You know, they usually have told me ahead of time what the intended use is for the portraits and the headshots. So, and they're usually coming to me because they saw my images and they kind of want to be like in the image, so I pretty much...
I want that, but me.
Yeah, I want this exact same picture that you took of this like 20-year-old and they're like 60, you know? So you do what you gotta do.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens, but yeah, that's pretty much it. They'll come in and I have a lot of go-to setups. You know, if you look at any of the images on that I've posted on social media within the past 2 or 3 years, these are all go-to lighting setups for me. They're images that if somebody said, I want to basically be lit in the same way, I could do it, you know, 10 times out of 10, day in and day out. They get lit.
They get lit.
They get lit.
Aww.
I have to say though, when clients walk in, they always tell us in the email or whatever the phone call was what they need the photo for. I pretend I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not because I don't want to think I don't listen to them, it's because that's another conversation I have with them to ease them up before the photo shoot. So
Then that's important.
I pretend I don't remember.
That breaking the ice, because, you know, we're not just robots. They're not just robots. They're usually not models. They don't know what to do. So a lot of, you know, what needs to happen there is very psychology based. Well, At least compared to a lot of, you know,
Some of them.
normal people like us. So what's your process afterwards? How do your clients either pick your pictures or how do they end up with their final product?
So for me, it's I pick the images.
Okay.
And I think it's very different than what a lot of people do.
Are you cringing over here? I think.
It's like, oh.
No, I'm doing something different. We'll
right,
talk about that later.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I established myself as the subject matter expert when it comes to all things portraits and headshots. And I also let them know that all of the images that they see on my website or see on social media, these are images that I selected. And so part of the reason for that is that a client looks at the image and they'll look at their expression, or they may not even look at the expression. They just see one random thing in a photo they don't like, and they just discount the whole photo. They're like, no, I don't like this one. When in actuality, in post, certain things could be done to make that image a winner. Like I've had shots before where I've done a portrait of somebody and their hair is flowing and their expression is great, the engagement with the camera is great, but there's like a patchy part of the hair that the wind was blowing, and so you see the background. And they're like, I can't use this one because it looks like my hair looks bad. And I'm thinking to myself, I can, in 2 seconds, copy an image where the hair looks amazing and put it on this image, and boom. So I have the ability to see that image as a processed, finished image.
As a final product.
As a final
And that's
product.
something
They can't
clients
see that.
Don't
Right.
envision.
And it's very
Exactly.
much your artistic license to be able to do that, and your creativity and your talent as part of the whole product that you're giving them, you're selling them.
Exactly.
Very much like if you were to have George Lucas, you know, when he was involved in Star Wars and had, you know, somebody in his ear telling him, oh, you should use this soundtrack, you know, this, you know, little piece, this editing, when really he's the one that needed to have control over the whole
Exactly.
thing. Or whoever was directing, or you get the analogy there. But Moshe, you're doing something completely different. So tell me about that.
Well, the DC areas has, I would say, people that want a little more decision making on their own. So what I do is I do a pre-screening of images. In between outfit changes, I pre-select all the images that I am happy giving. So any one of those I'd be happy to use. And when they get to look at 10 out of 20 clicks I made or 15 out of 30, those all images are ones I'm happy with, and they get to pick their favorites. And through the process, I talk to them about, I call it psychology more than photography, because I have to figure out what in the photo, the first thing they see, they're focused on, whether it's something in their nose or their hair, like you mentioned, something that they're automatically going to think that's not a usable photo. I have to find out what it is and tell them, let's ignore that because it's an easy fix. Focus on your expression.
Insecurities too.
Exactly. That's why I call it psychology. It's finding what they don't like about themselves. And so explain to them how easy fix it is, and let's focus on expression, engaging with the camera, look at your eyes, look at your body, and that gets them through the process. So establishing that in the first look, first batch of photos they're looking at is important for me.
Awesome. So we're going to wrap up this short episode here. What if you had to give headshot photographers out there one piece of advice, one solid thing that's helped you along your journey? What would it be?
So the most important thing is to learn to be social, learn to be just a people person.
Which is hard. I think a lot of photographers aren't. That's why we're behind the camera, right?
This is true. This is true. And I think that's basically, that excuse I've heard very often. They're like, that's why I'm behind the camera. But the problem is that you're photographing another human being that is in front of the camera. And so you have to communicate with them. You have to get them to be comfortable. You have to basically get them to where they're so comfortable that if I told them I want them to do a handstand on a coconut, that they would do it. You know?
I mentally noted that.
Yes.
I kind of would like to try that.
Yeah, like that's how they have to be so comfortable that they would at least give it a try, even though they might break their neck. But no, it's about being social. It's about being engaging. And one of the things that I would tell you is that there's no gear, there's no magic settings that will overcome a portrait of a person that isn't good. Like you can have amazing epic lighting and you know, like flashes going off in the background and they look like a superstar, and then they have this like.
Well, I heard that if you buy this light.
Phottix light, yes.
That's the one?
Okay. I'm a Profoto baby. That's why there's Profoto gear in the background.
But see, that's why I go back. That's why I go back to use the gear that works for you. Like if whatever that brand is, if that's the gear that helps you to kind of for the gear not to be a factor, to where now you could focus on the person and focus on working with them, use that. Like,
Perfect.
rock it.
I love it. So personality, what is your one piece of advice?
It's 1.5 piece of advice. One of the things I do as a studio photographer, or even on location, is, it's a secret, little secret. Clients walk in.
We're recording this though.
That's okay. I want them to know it.
It's not a secret anymore.
It's not a secret anymore. I push the gear and fold everything in between. Even if I have 10 clients a day, I'm going to break down everything and put it away if I have the time, because I want when a client comes in not to immediately step into the set all sweaty and rushed and not knowing what the hell is this big camera doing in front of me in my face. I want them to have a conversation with me, so I will set up the lights and bring them close to them for the soft light and put the camera on the tripod so they know why, and I explain the whole process to them in words in very simple conversation. That makes them a lot more engaged with what I do and how I do things, and they're not wondering, why is this thing so close to me that I can barely see the camera?
Plus
why
it
is
adds
there
value too, because they see how much really goes
Exactly.
into it. It's not just showing up with your iPhone.
The session is 10 minutes. It's really, as much as it's not true, I don't want them to feel like they're paying X dollar for just 10 minutes. I want them to see that there's a process there. So that's part of it too. But it really, the final goal is to make them really be relaxed. And that's what we do with both of our personality, like you said, but also explain the process. I think it's like going to the dentist, and if they explain to you that they're about to drill in your brain, you're going to be a little less nervous about it.
I don't know about that.
As long as you know what you're doing, okay.
You're about to kill me. But that really is. And the other tip, I think, is just to keep having fun, find new things that turn you on in photography, and renew what you do, because 5 years ago I would have never thought that this would be what I do every day. And now I'm doing something that I'm a lot more passionate about, and I think that's what photographers are lucky. They have a career that is the best mix of
Coolest job ever.
the coolest job ever. We do everything we like. We have an excuse to write off so many things. And I think just keep having fun. That really is the best tip I can give.
I love it. So thank you guys so much for joining me here on Adorama TV. Check out their websites below. We'll have them listed there. Check out Miguel's Adorama TV show, The Breakdown, and make sure you hit subscribe on the bottom here. Check out Adorama Learning Center. Lots of places for education and fun, and I will see you next time here. Breathe your passion on Adorama TV.
Adios.
See ya.